What's up, guys? Sergeant Argybright here, and today we're gonna be reacting to a video called "The Eastern Front of World War II Animated: 1941." So this is, it's gonna be about Operation Barbarossa. So that's really exciting. Where Germany and Germany's allies invaded the Soviet Union. Yes. But I don't really like this map isn't totally accurate though, because why does it show that all of Yugoslavia is occupied by Germany and Albania too? But anyways, yeah. Also, I got this really cool new browser called Opera GX. Look how cool it is, guys. Okay, look. Whoa. Isn't that cool? Look at all this stuff. Usually it shows typing sounds, but I guess it doesn't this time, whatever. And look, that is a VPN. This isn't sponsored, by the way, I just think it's really cool. But yeah, let's get started.
And the invasion was about to begin. Meanwhile, the Soviet forces...
Hello, what happened to the... Guys, this is why I don't like AirPods.
...were unaware...
They just, randomly disconnect. But yeah, anyway. Eastory, yep. Don't worry, I'll be reacting to Napoleon's Marshals soon. I just want to react to this first.
Europe, summer 1941. Germany had secured most of Central and Western Europe, with only Great Britain remaining defiant on the islands. The only potential threat to Germany in Europe was its former ally, the Soviet Union. In order to break the stalemate with Britain and make Germany's strategic position indisputable, Hitler decided to cripple the military capabilities of the Soviet Union and seize its natural resources. Germany planned to achieve this goal by capturing most of the European part of the Soviet Union before the onset of winter 1941. The main attack would take place in the center and be directed towards Moscow.
Oh my gosh, I can't even believe that's how much land they expected to take. Wow. And as we saw from the tick videos, a lot of this was mostly just hopeful thinking, not actually what they realistically thought. Because they needed oil and other resources really badly.
Auxiliary attacks in the north and south. By the middle of June 1941, the Germans had almost completed the preparations and the invasion was about to begin. Meanwhile, the Soviet forces were unaware of what was coming and were ill-prepared.
They should have been? What? Come on. There was a lot of signs that the Germans were going to invade. First of all, the gigantic military buildup on the border. Two, the Soviet Union literally let the Germans come on in, German soldiers come in, and, scout out their position. The Germans said, oh, we're just looking for the graves of, World War I soldiers. Or dead World War I soldiers. But in reality, they were just scouting out the entire Soviet Union. And yeah, there was a lot of signs. And then, a few days before, or the day before, I forgot, multiple people came to the Soviet Union and were like, hey, guess what, guys? So it turns out Germany is going to attack you, very, very soon. And Stalin was like, heck no. And then they invaded, just a little bit later. It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
To resist the German invasion. First, we'll look at the southern sector. The Soviets had deployed their strongest units in the south, having 1,200,000 men between the...
That's a lot!
And the Black Sea.
For not being prepared, that is a lot of men, though.
They were to be confronted...
And there's a river, there's some mountains, oh my gosh.
...by the army group south that was of roughly the same strength. The first objective of the Axis troops was...
No, not even one river, but two rivers, look at that. Anyways, I'm gonna stop.
Securing the western Ukraine. On June 22nd,
They
the
just-
invasion began.
Oh my god.
The Soviets immediately gathered their armed forces and met the German spearhead with a massive counterattack in the area of Dubno and Brody. But
This was the largest, I think this is the largest tank battle in the world. Everyone is like, oh, it's Kursk. It's not Kursk. It's like Brody or Dubno or something like that. I need a refresher, but yeah, it's not Kursk. Whoever said that is a lie. I don't even know why that's such a big myth that everyone thinks. But anyways.
due to the lack of combat readiness of the units involved, it failed, and the Soviets lost most of their tanks. The German advance continued, and this created a threat of encirclement.
Oh my gosh,
to the
it's
Soviet
just slided
troops
like
in the
butter.
south. They had to be withdrawn from the exposed position. After the main attack had tied down the Soviet reserves, the Axis forces in Romania joined the offensive.
You're just sweeping them aside.
The main spearhead
They're about to reach Kiev already. Wow. In the Dnieper River. I think that's Dnieper River.
now
Yeah, it is.
dashed towards the east, and this made Soviet command think that the main German effort was directed towards Kiev. However, the Germans stuck
it's
to
an
their
encirclement?
original plan and turned south. When the Soviets realized the German intentions, it was already too late to withdraw their forces, and the
Oh,
Germans
no.
encircled and destroyed many of the Soviet formations near the town of Uman. The Soviets
100,000, wow.
prey and retreated to the eastern bank of the river Dnieper. They deployed the first wave of
Another-
Russian
whoa.
troops to establish a strong defense on the river line and also cling to
Whoa, where did they get those? Whoa! They're like nothing here, and then all of a sudden, they just. Whoa! Wow.
freshly mobilized troops to establish a strong defense on the river line and also cling to the port of Odessa.
Oh my god. They just get like freaking 5 million more. Oh my gosh, what the heck?
At the same time, operations were being carried out in the north, where 1.5 million German soldiers from army groups north and center were facing 1 million Soviet
Dang.
soldiers. In the beginning of the invasion, the army group center was to encircle Soviet forces at the border and then advance towards Smolensk and Moscow. Meanwhile, Army Group North was to advance directly towards Leningrad, threatening to trap the Soviet forces between them and the sea. On June 22nd, the Germans attacked. The Soviet Western Front was deployed forward, and during the first days of the war,
Soviets aren't even moving, what the heck?
German forces encircled most of its formations near the towns of Bialystok and Minsk. In the Baltics, the Soviet counterattacks were defeated in the Battle of Razenia, and then they attempted to pull back and establish a defensive line.
They took
along the
Minsk
river.
already.
But the Germans reached the river before them and pushed onwards, threatening the Soviet units in the west with encirclement.
Advancing so fast, oh my
At the same time,
gosh.
Army Group Center had finished encircling the Soviet Western Front, and its infantry units began to reduce the pockets, while its armored forces advanced eastwards almost unopposed. The Soviets attempted to plug the gap by deploying most of their pre-war reserves to counter them, but it was not enough, and as the German offensive continued, their armor broke through the Soviet lines and trapped these units near Smolensk. By that time, the first wave of Soviet mobilization was complete, and the Soviets used these formations to block further German advance and attempted to free the encircled troops. However, the performance
Oh my gosh, again, they just got so many more reserves.
of German advance and attempted to free the encircled troops. However, the performance of these newly created units was lackluster, and they were unable to liberate the pocket. The Germans managed to close it up and eliminate it. The Germans had
300,000? What? What? 309,000? What? 309,000? What? That is
the
insane.
upper hand in the central part of the front, and now they were faced with two options. They could continue the push towards Moscow
Don't do that, that's a bad idea.
immediately, or secure the flanks of Army
Yes.
Center first and then continue the offensive eastwards. They decided to do the latter, and
That's what the Soviets did too. They had that same option right before they were at Berlin. They decided to secure the flanks as well.
the armored formations of Army Group Center were sent to aid neighboring army groups. During this time, battles had been raging in the north, where Army Group North had failed to pull out large encirclement.
Oh no.
Raging in the north, where Army Group North had failed to pull out large encirclements, and their progress was slowed down by the Soviet counterattacks and
I wonder if they were able to do their encircles, if they were able to take a Leningrad.
bad infrastructure. Nevertheless, they were making slow but steady progress, and after securing their left flank, they reached the approaches to Leningrad. When the help from Army Group Center arrived, they were able to perform the final push and cut off the land-based communications to the city. Further north, Finland had entered the war against the Soviet Union on June 25th, and the Finnish troops took advantage of the Soviet defeats by taking back the land.
Took land back fast.
Lost in the Winter War. After that, they established forward defensive positions between the lakes. Even further north, the Finnish and German troops attempted to capture the Soviet port city of Murmansk and cut the Murmansk railway in order to sever the Allied supply route to the Soviet Union. However, their attacks became bogged down in the rough terrain short of their objectives. The front became static. Meanwhile, the other armored units of the Army Group Center were sent to help Army Group South. The Soviets had anticipated that the Germans would continue their attack towards Moscow and concentrated their troops on this direction, which allowed the German armored formations to push back the weaker Soviet units on their southern flank. The German advance southwards forced the Soviets to abandon their forward positions in the Pripyat marshes to shorten the line. In Ukraine, the Soviet troops were occupying a strong defensive position, with their flanks resting on the Dnieper River in the west and south and the marshes in the north. Yet, the panzers from Army Group Center were bypassing the marshes from the east and advanced into the Soviet rear. The Soviets thought that the German spearhead was overextended and could be contained. However, unbeknownst to them, the armored formations of the Army Group South had secretly crossed the Dnieper from the south into a German breachhead and now broke through towards north to link up with the spearhead.
That is a lot.
In the central Ukraine became encircled. 750,000 men were trapped in the pocket. When the pocket had been liquidated, the Soviet forces in Ukraine had been severely weakened. After these operations, the flanks of Army Group Center were secure, but
that's a lot.
Didn't have enough time to reach the
Oh my god, they just have like a freaking gajillion reserves. How?
Objectives set in the beginning of the campaign, and they decided to go for more limited goals. In order to reach them, they began a full-scale attack along the whole front. In the south, the Soviet resistance had been crippled with the recent encirclement, and this allowed the Germans to carry out another encirclement, trapping part of the Soviet forces on the coast of the Black Sea. Then they pushed onwards and established their control over the resource-rich areas of the eastern Ukraine, conquered the Crimean Peninsula, with Soviets abandoning Odessa. But
100,000? Jeez. There's only like one division. How did they get that many?
Clinging on to the port of Sevastopol. At the same time, the German forces were pursuing their objectives in the north. Their goal was to sever the remaining supply route to Leningrad and link up with the Finnish forces. The initial advance was successful and reached its first goal by cutting the railway line supplying the city. The main German effort was in the center. All this time, the Soviets had anticipated an
Look how many troops, jeez.
Attack on Moscow and had deployed 1,250,000 mobilized troops to the sector. During the German operations on the flanks, they had even somewhat managed to push Army Group Center back to improve their defensive perimeter.
Oh wow.
In September, the German armor had finally returned to the center and proceeded to cut.
But there's like a freaking gajillion Soviet divisions, and like there's like 5 German divisions. Wow. Well, I know the Soviet divisions were smaller, but I didn't know they were like that much smaller.
Carry out a new attack. Once again, near the towns of Vyazma and Bryansk, the Soviet troops were
That's a lot.
And this resulted in halving the Soviet strength on the front. After reducing the
so how did they like not take Moscow then? Because at this point they outnumber them like 4-1. Like it. Oh my god. They still have like 2 months until winter.
Pockets, the Germans closed their distance to Moscow. Then they attempted to encircle Moscow with a two-pronged attack.
Oh, if they would have just went straight towards Moscow, I wonder if they would have been able to take it instead of like doing this.
But by that time, the long advance had exhausted their offensive capabilities, and the weather had become severely cold. The Soviets managed to halt their advance, and although they didn't have large superiority in numbers, the Soviet proficiency in winter combat allowed them to carry out a counterattack. The Germans were forced to abandon their vulnerable forward positions on the flanks and pulled back in order to shorten the front line. During the retreat, they had to abandon some of their heavy equipment. At the same time, the German attempt to cut off Leningrad had also failed, and they had to retreat to their starting positions, and the supply line to Leningrad was restored. In the south, the German advance was also checked by the Soviets, forcing the Germans to abandon their forward positions in Rostov. The first year of the war was over. The Soviets had stopped the Germans far from their initial goals, but at the great cost to their own military capabilities. The Red Army had been decimated, and it would take a
Dang, they only got like half of their goal.
year or more to fully rebuild and re-equip the army. The Germans wanted to use this window of opportunity and were sending most of their available forces to the Eastern Front to deliver a knockout punch in the following year. 1942 would be the decisive year of the war.
Well, thank you all for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this, make sure to give it a like. I don't know, do whatever you want with it, I guess. I don't know. Next time we're reacting to the 1942 parts. That should be interesting. But, yeah. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye. Well, everyone, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it and subscribe to my channel. And, you know, turn on the notification bell thingy. And if you didn't, then make sure to leave a thumbs down. But yeah, that would be greatly appreciated. And while you're at it, go ahead and watch my other videos. They're probably just as good, and if not better than this one right now. Except for my oldest videos, don't watch those. And, you know, subscribe to these people down here, my fellow sergeants. They're other YouTubers that I either know or I have in high regards. Yeah, even my cat agrees. So, thank you for watching, and have a great day.